Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Now Debate. Jared Walters here with Richard Oliver coming at you once again from our humble abodes in South Wales, UK. Hope everyone can hear me. If you can, let us know in the chat, let us have your voice, because today we'll be doing some questions and answers. But before we do, we have a little bit of announcement. After tonight's video is finished, so after tonight's Now Debate is finished, we have a special presentation from Gary Jones. Gary, as you guys may remember, has been on our show before, and he has made a film surrounding the UFO sighting that Richard had during April of 2020. It is a spectacular film. I have only seen bits and pieces of it. What I've seen is absolutely amazing. Please, guys, when this broadcast is over, please do give the video a watch. It's about 45 minutes long. It's really professionally done. I mean, really professionally done. And yeah, join us and watch this Gary's take on one of our cases, because the guy is meticulous and he's a brilliant researcher, and I like the way he puts everything across. Richard, how are you? And the film is done, but
yes, Gary's done the film, bless him. I did, fair dues to him. I showed him what was going on, and I haven't seen it myself, so I'm going to be watching it like you guys. And it's, it was a crazy moment to go through, and a bizarre experience. Well, I can't wait to see what Gary's done with it, to be honest with you.
It is good. It's called The Translucent Red Orb is the name of the documentary, and it is presented like a documentary. It's really, really well done. It's really well done. So, and there'll be a link below that video, and we'll put a link below this one as well. So if you want to watch any of Gary's films, you can check out his BitChute channel as well. And we'll also link in the description below to his prior presentations he has done here on this channel. But this film, which will be around about 9 o'clock this evening, after we've finished this broadcast, we'll be going live straight away. We might even publish it live, because it's all set and ready to go. It's just being chugged in the background by YouTube as we speak. So basically, by the time this show ends, it will be up and it will be ready, and it is fantastic, guys. It's a really good UFO documentary. Yeah, so Richard, any updates, my friend?
No, really, no. I've been looking at some interesting stuff. I don't know the guy's name. I know he plays Christopher Pike in, I believe it is Discovery, and he's just joined something to do with looking for alien life. I think his name's Hanson
Mount. Hanson Mount.
Yeah, just been reading an article about him, so I thought it was quite interesting. Yes, I've just been keeping an eye on the news. There's been quite a few UFO reports going around at the moment from different places, different places in the UK. Just trying to keep an eye on stuff, to be honest with you. That's about it. Just trying to, at the moment, the news and everything else is just bombarded with crazy at the minute, and it's hard not to get caught up in it. So I think that's what we did with these questions. But I will tell you guys, if you do ask any questions, don't ask me any on sport. I know nothing.
Don't ask you anything nothing. What?
Sport. Okay.
About sport. Yeah, don't ask me about sport, but I can't do sport. I don't do sport. I'm a paranormal enthusiast, for God's sake. Do I look like I kick a football?
No, I know.
This is definitely not a question of sport. On the other hand, though, have you been watching Discovery Season 3?
I have.
How far are you? Don't give any spoilers, but how far are you into it?
Episode 4, I believe.
Yeah.
I've also been watching The Mandalorian, which has been, oh my God, The Mandalorian's great. Discovery's
been... I haven't got into it yet, but go on.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's been Discovery's been really good, really interesting, wicked twist on it. Brilliant, sort of a bit of a take the way they've come about it. I think it's pretty good. I think it's been pretty good. Good storyline.
Do you know what? To me, it's been a bit like that's kind of what it's been what I've needed. You know, a show has got it's less drab, it's less dreary. You know, it's got some hope to it, and I really could have done with that. When I watched the first episode, it was like, and the title of that video, that episode is That Hope Is You, or something like that. Basically, is the title of that episode of Discovery. But yeah, it was one of them just seminal moments in science fiction. I love science fiction. A bit of a science fiction nerd. I love Star Trek. It's pretty much my favorite show, other than the X-Files. It's pretty much my favorite show on air at the moment, and it's been absolutely brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. So I just thought I'd see how things are going with you guys in the chat. Do you have any questions to ask us? I'm just going to bring the chat up on screen now so we can have a little look of what you guys have been saying. And I just want to say hello to Paul, hello to Victoria, and hello to Ram. Had a question. Ram said, COVID-19 is natural or artificial virus. Thank you for your answer. Is COVID-19 well, we'll start off with a contentious question, shall we?
I'll throw that one in there. Neither. No. I wouldn't say it's natural if it is out there. Personally, I would say it has been engineered. But I say that, obviously, I've had my views on this channel about it. I would say, no, it's not natural. That's the best way I can put it. It's not natural. I think the whole concept of this COVID outbreak has been, what can I say, overstimulated, overblown, and it's done to make people money. That's the way I feel about it.
And a lot of that is starting to come out now. Personally, my answer to that question is basically, from a psychic standpoint, I sense manipulation. I am slightly opposed to Richard's view, although I can understand your reasoning, Rich. I was more drawn to something not natural than natural. But the two things that come into my head is either it was made in a lab somewhere, as different sources in the media were reporting back in March of this year, or if it is natural, I think it's something that's been dormant for a long time and possibly released that way. But my overriding feeling is I don't think it's natural. I think there's a man-made element to it. When I look at it, you look at the epidemiology and how it's spread and that sort of thing. I look at what different professionals are saying, that it's not adhering to certain rules and principles. There's a lot in this that just doesn't still make sense to me. And I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not a scientist. I don't claim to be. But when I'm reading different scientists and different doctors that are saying conflicting bits of information, there's something amiss, and I don't know what that is. It could be the fact that at some point it all comes out, or it's very, very hard to determine at this point. Now, when we look at the ghost boxes, they have talked about a virus. We have there's the one that we did a few months ago. I believe the thumbnail image is something like what I saw, or something like that is written in the thumbnail. And in there, when I'm doing an Afterlife box session, it talks about this Chinese virus. When we had the warning in 2018, it called it a virus. So I don't know. There are certain things that we've had through the ghost box that suggested there's something unnatural. But yeah, that's kind of where I am sat with it as well.
There's something unnatural about everybody behind it and everybody in front of it. There's something unnatural about it all. I mean, there's a vaccine out now, which is insane. This has been a farce. You've got governments not adhering to their own rules. You build up a picture of it, and you get I got the conclusion that it's all nonsense, and they're just adding what regular people pass from, and they're just saying it's COVID. That's where I am with it. I'm not saying I'm right, and I'm not asking anyone to believe what I believe. That's where I am with it. That is where I am with it.
So we have a question that was emailed into us. I don't have the guy's full name, so if you are watching, I answered some of this in an email to you, but it's a very good... I won't use your full name because I haven't checked first, but I know that I will just say the first name, and I know that this gentleman is currently in the South Wales area. His name is Luke, and he has asked about how to progress with the paranormal, with investigating the paranormal, especially ITC. He has had different ITC devices, and some of which have packed up on him, mostly the audio devices. He would like a little bit of insight in how to move forward in his research. He's very young, he's still at sort of, he's basically going into his 20s, very, very shortly, so he's sort of late teens, early 20s. I'll say that about the gentleman. Thank you, Luke, for your question, which you sent through the website and through the email, and I'm sorry it took me a while to get a reply back to you. But Richard, what would you say in reply to Luke's question?
Don't do it, run for your life. Well, it's not something you should ever take lightly, ever. I mean, investigating the paranormal comes with a lot of pitfalls. You're dealing with people on a really personal level. Now, that's one of the most important things. If you're just going around to haunted locations and investigating, that's a different kettle of fish. If you're dealing with people, it's a different ballgame. You really have to be on your guard, and you've got to watch everything you say.
He's doing it more himself, Reese, just doing sessions himself and watching them back, but that's more the research he's doing. Sorry, I should have specified that.
Right, okay. Well, if you're doing ITC stuff, right, always put up your intention. Like any divination, any sort of contact you're trying to make with spirit, always set your intention. So you always ask for spirits of light and love with pure intentions, and you don't have to believe in anything. You can just set your intentions. I personally pray because I do believe, but just that's the first starting point. And if you're going to go and ask questions, right, like we have done on this channel, sometimes it's only rarely you get a direct response to a question. What we found with our responses is they're going down a road that we haven't specified. We've had that a lot with the ITC equipment. We have used it on cases where, like we did a case in an old mine where an estate was built over an old mining colony, and they were direct. It was insanely direct. It was, they were talking about the mines, they were talking about the strikes, they were talking about how they felt down the mines. You've got to be... There's a point where your connection with spirit, right, is a very powerful tool. Now, there's kind of a lot there's a lot to that question to start off. I mean, when I started in the paranormal, I had not an inkling of what I was going to go through. I was told to look inwardly. I found myself through meditation and spirituality, and then I went on to investigate in the paranormal and try to help people. But with the ITC equipment, it's Jazzy. You do a lot with determining what the equipment is saying, right? Yeah. So I think you have a better idea than that. But when it comes to try and get it to answer what you want, otherwise, I can promise you'll be left a bit disappointed. But what you've got to do with the message is understand its relevance. If the message comes through and it isn't sort of directly to what you're asking, and spirit have gone to the trouble to give a message, then you really have to be meticulous with it. You really have to understand where it fits in the reality of the world we live in. So that's something you need to look at as well.
There is a preconception which a lot of people have when it comes to ITC. And I learned this the hard way, and a lot of people are not going to like what I have to say here because people want that instant gratification. Well, sorry, it's tough shit, basically. Right? I spent years building up my connection with spirit. So I built that connection up with whoever in spirit wants to come forward. For me, it was my brother Jonathan. And that connection built over time, right? It's a little bit different with me. And what I believe it is, for me personally, because if you look at the responses Hafaz, and you look at the responses that maybe Chill Seekers, or Cody ITC, or Hope Paranormal, they all kind of have those responses in a different way, right? The slight different thing I think is with me, right, is that I have someone on the other side that is able to use these devices and has gone I think there's been an agreement made about us going through doing this work, but I have, not only do I have a strong spiritual connection with them, I also have a blood connection with them. I have a family connection with them. I have a spiritual connection with them. I have your connection with spirit is the sacred thing here. And Ghostbox is not just used to show people on YouTube or show people on social media or say, look what I got, look what I can do. It is a tool that helps you to better understand your relationship with spirit. And I think the point of the tool is to show, to give because what happens when we have this communication with spirit, it happens in our minds, it happens in our dreams, our consciousness, it happens in the realms of the unseen. So what the ghost box kind of can do is bring the elements of the unseen into the seen, so they can be recognized, known and understood. Also, by working on your own connection with spirit, by doing things like meditation, by working on yourself, by maybe getting involved in, I don't mean go and train to be a medium, I just mean understand, research it, understand it, let it take you on a journey. No, you're not going to get the gratification overnight. There are sessions that I done 6 years ago that I'm only understanding their relevance now. So it's a big, long process. If you are really serious about doing this research, it's not a process that you can get results instantly. It is. And even if you do get results instantly, you're probably not going to understand them instantly. So building that connection with spirit is paramount. And that, if you use the ghost box as a tool in that way, right, you'll get better results rather than using it as a tool to contact Michael Jackson or whoever's passed away recently and stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with doing that type of stuff. It's about getting the connection you have there ready so that when you are working, spirit also know how to work with you. Because that's the part that people also forget, is that yes, you have to learn to work with spirit, but they've got to also learn to work with you. It's a two-way process. It is. When it comes to the responses, don't make the same mistake I did. Go through the video. When you do the session, record a video, go through the responses. Don't do the next session until you've finished what it has to say and you've took time to digest it. Okay? Yeah. I would basically say, I would advise against going and buying a ghost box and doing sessions on your own if you've never had any experiences. go with other paranormal groups or other teams. Find people that you resonate with, that you can do those things together, because that's what I did. And that's, in a sense, Rich, that's what you did. We didn't do it on our own, first of all. Because if something happened...
I started a paranormal group. I never went investigating with anyone before I started Paranormal Wales.
No, but you had Chris with you.
Yes, I did.
You'd gone to the church. So you had an idea of what was going on. It's like, you know, you might have an idea what it's being like to jump into water, but you're not going to jump into, you know, the dam that's death straight away. Spirit do kind of ease you through it on a way that's right for you. Some people, they'll go straight to the advanced stuff. Some people, it takes them a bit longer. It all depends where you are and what the purpose of that connection and that work is for. There's always a purpose when Spirit give us this sort of stuff, because you got to think of it. It takes a lot for them to come through and say those things. So they want to make sure that information's being treated right as well. When you're going through responses, look at the different responses as patterns of speech. So you look at one line, see what it says, and then you go to the next line. And you ask yourself, when you're going through each response, is it referring to someone in the room? Is it referring to something that you possibly recognise? Or is it referring to the last response or the next response? So you will have a ghost box saying blah, 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 as in a line like, hello, my name is, and the next one would be, Jared, how are you doing today? And you haven't asked who's with you. You might have asked something else. But, so you've got to look at it as patterns of speech. How would a person talk, and think of it that way? And break it down into little bits. That's what I do. Also, what I do is once I've done that, I leave it for a while. I leave the session, go and do something else for a day or two, come back to it. Am I still hearing the same thing? Because sometimes Spirit will work with you when you are interpreting. So that's why it is good for you to build that connection first. You're going to save yourself a lot of trouble in the long run.
Yeah. I just wanted to, sorry Jazz, just want to go back to the chat. There was a lot about, people are obviously thinking about this 5G. There's a couple of comments, right? Somebody said about it being, Victoria said about it being a sort of biological weapon, a double bluff. I think this is all psychological, right? To do with everything that's going on in the world right now.
That was the next question I was going to come on to.
Yeah, I think it's psychological. I think personally, we're running out of natural resources. This great reset, if any of you've looked into that, I think this is all to do with that. I personally, like I said, I don't know if I'm right, but I don't think it's got anything to do with the virus. I think it's about, we've just shown a government who we know, without question, is corrupt. They will listen quite subduedly with just charts, right? With just information that is false. We'll just follow like sheep to information that is really incorrect. And that's a dangerous thing. I mean, if you look at Brexit with Cambridge Analytica, you know, they used weapons grade subversive advertising, and they manipulated a lot of people. They've done it with Barack Obama. They've done it quite a few times. And I think there's a question about 5G as well. I don't think without the virus, 5G is not very good for us. Personally, I don't think it's very good for our spiritual self, to be honest with you, because if you want to numb the senses, I mean, this you sent me that thing yesterday from the CIA, Jazz.
Yeah.
Talking waves and energy and sounds and everything else that comes with that. Now, if you're on a spiritual awakening, you're going to change your vibration, right? You're going to with spirituality, which we're going to do. Me and Jazz are going to do this on the show, guys. If you're interested, because we asked a few questions, we put a bit of a poll out there, and we're going to do spiritual development. I'm going to do it like I did it. Jazz is going to do it the way he learned. So you've got two options there to choose from, and we'll talk about this in different videos. But when you have a realization through meditation, and you get to really ask yourself the questions that you probably will put at the back of your mind and avoid. And it does really change your frequency, your vibration. I felt the energy change in myself. I felt the way I felt about life change, the way I felt about others, the world, my environment, myself, and that did change. I felt it. I could genuinely feel it. People said they could sense it from me, and people said who I was in contact, who I'd met here, and then I met them after this journey, and they were spiritual and they were sensitive and psychic and mediums. They said they felt it on me. So I think, and according to some of this CIA document, it's true. Your vibration changes, and I think 5G is going to affect our vibration, our sense, our energy, the thoughts we have in our mind. It's radiation that's passing through us, and it's in the realms of how thought works. So I mean, I think without the virus, 5G is not very good for us, right? Only 4G. I don't think any of it's very good for us, to tell you the truth. I know we're using it to do these streams, but I don't think it is.
No, we have a completely wired connection. I am.
Are you? Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know what you know me. I'm a dinosaur. So, you get in the paranormal, we get things called a fear cage, right? And that's where you've got high levels of EMF. So you've got wiring running like in 4 walls, right? And you can go in there and the EMF detector will go off the chart. And people in these environments experience some pretty crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. So, that's what we're going to be experiencing.
Well, this is the thing, right? The thing is with 5G is it doesn't travel very far. So you've got to have it in like a street. You will have like 3 posts per street, right? I don't like the way they've been put up next to schools. That's one thing. In order for them to actually make a massive difference or cause massive problems, it would have to be rolled out a lot more than it currently is. I don't know what the situation is in the major cities. I know it is around in some areas. I don't know about others. Now, there's a couple of things to think about with regards to this. We went to a friend's house in London a couple of years ago, and he lives in like a block of flats. And they are like very small flats, so all blocked together. And you had loads of Wi-Fi routers basically all in one place. And that did actually make me feel ill. That actually made me feel physically sick being in that environment because I'm not used to it. We were in a city environment as well, and sometimes if you're sensitive, the energy of that can be quite disorientating. But it is a point I want to make here. Right, and I think this speaks to the double bluff, it speaks to 5G, it speaks to all the rest of it, right? What you're dealing with is there's a psychological element to it, yes, right? And is there psychological tricks being used so that people can act a certain way? Yes. You only have to have a look at the behavioural document released by Sage before we went to lockdown to actually, that's available on the government website. They have had this type of thing where they need to predict behaviours when they implement lockdowns and this sort of thing. So there's that element, but there's also the element of, and choose my words carefully here, right? And because people might take this meaning differently. There is almost a hysteria element to this as well, because what has happened by putting everyone in isolation for so much, we have caused probably one of the biggest mental health crises ever. And there is a lot of information out there that lacks objectivity, and there's a lot of information that gives the bad guy, then, let's just say the bad guy or the black hats or whatever you want to call them, far too much power, right? The thing that people need to remember is our capacity to love, our capacity to act, our capacity to do things in the best interests of those we love and those we care about, but also strangers, is something that the mindset behind some of this, where it has been manipulated, just simply doesn't understand. Now, do I think what's happening in America could be a double bluff? It's possible. It's possible. It could, and I have said this before, it could be possible of an outcome of Trump gets loads of support and somehow proves that the election is overturned. And 4 years later, we found out it was actually Trump that lied, and he's been the worst president since Hitler. Right? It's possible. Because what I think is happening, because there's so much pressure being put on everyone at the moment, without everything else that's going on, people have become naturally divided because they go to their own camps. They go to what they know and understand. And I think this is where we're kind of a back against the wall moment here. So there's different levels to it. Everything, and I think it's just worth noting that there's different levels to everything that we're seeing around us here. Would you agree to that, Rich, or not?
I would. I mean, yeah. I mean, the problem is we don't know who. I can't find anyone at the minute, and there was one person I thought I could put my trust into, who was a politician, and that was Jeremy Corbyn. But there is no one at the moment I really, honestly, have faith in, that I would say I would back them up, I would stand by the take the bullets they take. There is no one on this earth right now who's in that position that I can honestly say I put my faith in. And I mean, I've been looking at this stuff for years, and I've done some really deep research into the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, the Goldsteins, the JP Morgans of the world. I've really looked into. I mean, I've looked at people like, Branson and all of it, and I've never found anyone, right, including Gates, well, especially Gates, but I've never found anyone that I didn't think, oh my God, you would. It's worse than selling your soul. It's some of the things they've done in history are incredible. I mean, really, these things are darkness, right? There's darkness, and I think without any intervention at all, right? If we are talking the spirits, right? If we talk about this in the sense of, say, remember we discussed this before about the soul being trapped. I can't remember
the false light matrix.
False light matrix. Even if that was the case, right? And there's beings, and they keep sending us back, and then we go and then back. Life itself, us as people, we cannot stand for the things that go on in this world en masse. We cannot stand for them. We can't stand for there being Roundup in our food, for the way they use sugar, for the way they treat people with cancer, when they send people to jail for, cannabis is in the Bible. I mean, it's there's so many things. It says in the Bible, right? I'm not trying to preach here, but it says in the Bible, everything you will ever need to heal yourself, I place in the plants on planet Earth. Now, I don't know that, right? And I'm not preaching because I'm not a fan of the Bible as a whole, but that sounds like truth to me, right? That sounds like truth. Everything you need on this earth is in plants, right? So if there was a coronavirus, the cure is probably just there in a field somewhere. Everything we need, and they're not using it for the right means. It's all about money. It's always been about money, power, and these people, when they get to the top, they can afford to use their darkness. They can afford to have their dark desires. They can, they can hide on their islands. They can be out of the public eye, and they do some pretty dark stuff. Even people that's in the public eye do dark stuff. Even people who are right in front of you, as you know, it's come out in history, and it just can't go on. It just cannot go on, and we're at an amazing opportunity where the people of this world can turn all this fear and control and negativity around. And we don't have to do it the way they do it. We can just make this world a better place. We're at the opportunity. People are starting to rise up. People are starting to say, I've had enough. I've had guts full. And we don't have to, like they're doing in America, where they're throwing fireworks at Trump supporters and they're going around smashing things and burning things. We don't have to burn what we've built. We've built it. They haven't built it. We have. That's ridiculous. That's a completely mental mindset. But we can. We can change all of this. We're really on that cusp. And I think it's been written in history and everything around us. Spirit have been saying it to me since I started this journey. Don't make the same mistakes we made. And they're trying to tell us with every ounce of their being.
This leads us on to a couple of things. First of all, I absolutely agree with everything that you're saying. What you got to think of, guys, right? It's like the old alchemist saying, as above, so below, right? How many times have you been in a place in your life, perhaps you've been in a dead-end job, a dead-end relationship, or there's issues that you've had to bear and endure until you take that, what a friend of mine calls empty-handed leap into the void. Until you take that jump. Now you can have all the people in the world help you, give you advice, give you a helping hand, hold your hand out, and it doesn't mean a thing until you take that jump. And that's where we're at. And I was talking, I was thinking about the messages that we've been getting from the Council of 12, and we've done a video about this, which is going to go out in the next couple of days, regarding the situation in America. And I wanted to know if anyone else had this message. So for some reason I had the inkling to write Amazing Polly into YouTube. Now I know as someone, Simon Parks, has mentioned, what it actually threw up was this video about what's going on in America. And it was from one of these big Christian churches, these big evangelical type things that you see in America, where there's lots and lots of praise, hail Jesus, praise the Lord, hallelujah, etc, etc. Well, I sent the video to Richard, and I think Richard had thought I converted, which you were quite concerned. You were quite, I was in stitches. But it was one, these kind of, praise the Lord, we've got brother so-and-so here with us, and he's going to tell us about, he has been listening to the word of God, and God has been speaking to him since 2012, and God is going to give us the prophecy, and God is going to, that kind of thing, Yeah, so basically...
Practicing that, Jazz.
What? No, I just
need
to get out of me. It was just, it actually felt quite positive to do it. I might just,
Stay on, right, holding a Watchtower book, because we'll have a problem.
I might just do it like making my food after. God wants me to have this bacon, and God wants me to have these eggs. I was actually, I know you can't see me, but I was actually jumping up my chair at that point. Actually, it kind of felt nice. But yeah, it was those type of, and anyway, the guy was on about, he had a vision in 2012, and he was taken through this. Now, he would say it was a vision from God, and I would say, no, it's probably your spirit, or it's a vision from your higher self, or your spirit guides, or whatever, right? I do kind of have a belief in God, not the Christian God, but I do believe in a God, or God energy, a bit like the Force out of Star Wars, I always say. And he was taken through this, through the story of Moses. And it was, I'll post it in the description below for anyone who wants to watch it. You know, you're probably going to cringe a little bit over it, but it's a different frame of reference. That's all it is. You know, it's a different frame. Who am I to say anything negative against the people who frequent these churches or the work these people do? At the end of the day, the same message is getting through, which is humanity is on the cusp of a transformative moment. And he called it the moment of the parting of the Red Sea. He said that moment just before Moses raises up his staff and parts the Red Sea, you know, everyone, and they're basically, I think it's the Israelites, is it? Oh God, I actually know the story more than I thought. The Israelites have been sort of fleeing from the Egyptians, and they're gaining on them, and obviously they get to the Red Sea, and they think they're doomed. They think that's the end of it. They think, you know, why did you bring us to die in the desert? Wasn't there enough graves in Egypt, or something like that? And yeah, he made that same connection, and it was exactly the same message as we've been putting out. And I just thought that was brilliant, because I thought that was brilliant because it was a completely different context. A completely different context than what we had. And this is the thing. Whatever the solution is to where we are at the moment, we haven't seen it before. Because if we had, to use the euphemism from the religious video, we would have already crossed the Red Sea, and we haven't at the moment. If we knew the solution collectively, we would be doing it. Because anyone opposed to that wouldn't be able to stand up to the numbers. You know, it's like, if it is people opposed to it, people who are trying to keep humanity suppressed, you'll be surprised as how very few people there actually are. And then, you know, once humanity does take that turn, there's pretty much nothing they can do. It's exactly the same as any negativity you feel. It's like when someone leaves an abusive relationship and starts to rebuild their life, gradually they get to that point where they move forward. And they go back, they might see that person in a relationship with 10 years later and go, well, they've either moved a different way, so the relationship was basically holding both of them back, or one party's moved one way forward, another person hasn't. So yeah, there's this huge thing going on right now.
There was a question Vicky asked about cluster suicides.
Cluster suicides, yeah.
I just wanted to cover on this, right? And yes, I think these are happening. Whether they're linked to things like 5G and stuff like that, I'm not sure. I think they're linked to more environment, right? Because I have unfortunately lost quite a few people in my life to suicide. And I think what it is with, it's like they don't report it, right? A lot of it's not reported. And you've got there, most of you might know about the story about Bridgend, you know, going back quite a few years ago, cluster of suicides with young people in Bridgend. And there's quite a few conspiracy stories based around that. But I think with the communities we have, right, and the way communities, especially here in Wales, have been treated, right, there is a lot of neglect that goes on, right? I've been part of the communities, been part of communities first, and the people involved in them try very hard to try and bring community together, but it's kind of drifted from our mindset. And when you are absolutely alone, which does seem to be the thing at the moment, does seem to be a sort of common theme running through society at the moment, where we're a bit afraid. You know, we've got old people afraid of teenagers, right? They got less fear of the police, and they and the structure of work and different things like that. I I think we're going to see, and especially with the lockdowns, we're going to see a lot of it. And I think it's more to do with the environment and the spiritual self. And if you get clusters, I've noticed this in areas where I've done paranormal research, you get a lot more negative forms of hauntings, right, in these areas. With, as you know, Jazz, won't say the name, but we did the ones in Newport.
Yeah.
And you do get like negative buildup. And I think that affects people, right? Because negativity, you've got to think with, we call them negative energies. We don't call them anything else because, this is the way we choose to talk about it. And I think they affect people with their day-to-day lives, right? So you imagine if the environment you live in is stressful, and then you've got something else magnifying that stress, and that can actually happen to a location. It can happen over quite a wide area. I don't think it's so much. I don't think it helps things like 5G. I know they've used, I've read about it where they've used subliminal messaging to create said things. I mean, the FBI and the CIA have been called up on it. But I think you get like an energy pocket of negativity, and I have found through research doing this that you do get spates of suicide.
Well, Victoria kind of disagrees with you in that, because a lot of these people were part of the music scene, and a lot of them, they weren't alone. It's a very, very hard question to answer, and it's a very difficult question to answer in this kind of setting, because obviously being on YouTube, you've got to be kind of careful on what you say as well.
Well, no, I got to disagree with you there. Yeah, if they had someone, but not everybody is open enough to really talk about how they feel.
Yeah,
right?
That's the problem.
Yeah, not everybody. I mean, you can say there's circumstances. I know lots of soldiers. I've had it in my life. And they were happy, right? On the outside, they had friends. They were happy, right? You don't know what's going on behind closed doors, right? I wouldn't necessarily, if it was something environmental, so it was put out in the environment, you'd see a massive amount of it. Right, because like sound waves, they've tested this. I mean, there's a certain frequency that can make you literally spew, and they've used it. They've been thoughts about using it in crowd control because it affects everybody the same. It's like the Nats call, right? They put in like bus stops and bus shelter, things like that, right? You go there with a bunch of teenagers, they can all hear it. Some adults can, but I think it's more. With places like that, you just don't, the environment with negativity. It's like you can have a block of flats, all right? And I've done this through paranormal investigating. You can have a block of flats, and every flat, all these people are on the edge of existence. And you can check this out for yourself and want to do research in it, and you'll see there'll be a massive spate of suicides in a block. Right,
I've seen that in university campuses as well. I've known that throughout my life in university campuses.
You've heard about it. You're thinking about it, and it's a spiral. I'm not saying it can't, Vic. I'm not saying that it couldn't be something that they've done. I'm not disputing it. This 5G, I don't trust it. Right, I don't trust the people behind it. They've been planting these towers around. Would I think they would do something like that? Yes, I do. I tell you the truth, in my heart, that's as honest as I can be. Would they do something like that? Would they put something out there to cause something like that? I believe that absolutely. Right? They've done it with television for years. Right? They do it with the things we're using now, with phones, with advertising, with sounds, recordings, everything. They know everything. Right? Information is all at the minute. It's the biggest commodity on earth. So, you know, but that's just, you can get pockets of negative. There's a world that we can't see. I'll tell you the truth. And there is energy on both sides of that spectrum. There's light, there's dark. Right? And it's not, and at the moment, in the world we live in, I'll tell you now, darkness is a bit more prominent than light. So, but that's just my thought on it. I'm not saying I'm right. That's just how I feel.
Okay, any further questions to this? Just seeing if there's any further questions. Victoria says men have been conditioned to talk for thousands of years, not to talk about their feelings. Yeah, it's very true. Sometimes you can feel alone even if you live in a house full of people. Sometimes it's not about being alone. Relationships are suffering. Sorry, just reading sort of through some of the quotes here. Thank you for that quote, Amanda. I think the other thing as well, you've got to be careful that you can't blame yourself. And we do. When we lose people, we do blame ourselves. It's a thing that we as humans do. We want to find responsibility because we feel wronged, and we want to see someone, you know, and a lot of times we can actually blame ourselves for it, because there are instances and there are situations where there is no wrongdoing. There are situations where there is wrongdoing. I think you've got to see what the information is, what facts that you can gather with those sort of things to study it. So what I would say to you, Victoria, is maybe take a look, if it's something that interests you or it has been coming up for you in your life, I would say that just look into it as much as you can. There's some good stuff by Brian Garis. He did some good studies on the pretend suicides that happened in the noughties. I believe Richard D. Hall has actually done a documentary on them as well, on the more sort of paranormal alternative side of the spectrum. But have a look into all sides. Don't just look into the paranormal, the alternative. Look into the psychology, look into mental health, look into... So again?
Have a look at what social media is doing to young minds at the minute.
Yeah, that sort of thing. There's several layers, as we've just said. There's several layers. And it might just be that one thing doesn't describe it. But when you get this piece, that piece, and that piece, at the end of the day, what you've got to remember, and the sad thing is when we lose people, it doesn't change the fact that they have gone. And if helping to understand it helps, or helps others, or helps you, then great. But at the end of the day, I would say just let yourself feel what you need to feel first. And what you'll find, if you put that question out to the universe, the answer will come to you. The answer will come to you. It will. I got a sense with you, Victoria, you've got a strong mind, and I think you've been given some really rough times for a very good reason. I think it's a contribution that you need, that you will end up making someday. Just my vibe, it is. I feel that really strongly. So thank you for your questions. Right, guys, we're actually getting on for about 9:20 now, and I would like to get into showing you guys the film from Gary. So is there any further questions on the chat that you can see, Rich?
Let me have a look.
Have a look. Have a look at the chat to see if there's any questions.
I think we've covered, the majority of the questions. We are, I believe, we are at a spiritual junction, and I think, I've tried to be there for the people. I've tried to be there for strangers, right, which I have for many years doing the paranormal, right? I've done it for free, and some people take advantage of that kindness, right? I'm not going to say they haven't, but I've tried to keep a little beady eye on them through social media to see if they're okay, even if they don't say it, or they don't see it. But it's just, with everything, there's so much going on in life at the moment with social media. Like it just sort of brought something to mind with Vic, with these people are singers or musicians, and they're in music. I mean, with social media right now, imagine it's something it's your dream, and then you go on these social media apps and you've got somebody that's just natural at being able to belt. I love singing, right? I've been on Smule for years, right? I can't use it anymore because I don't work with Android. But it brought joy to me. Just having a little sing song, right? Just singing, just karaoke. And I love it. I do it in the car. If ever I feel stressed, I put my phone on my dash. I plug it into my
Well, it's
stereo.
been banned, isn't it? Singing and dancing in pubs.
Right, yeah, it's one of my little joyful pleasures, right? I just love it. And you can imagine, you pinned everything on, and you got the way, all this social media. You got things that are, you got kids that can go in groups and talk about you in private, but en masse, you've got everything, like, everything you strive for. You're going to see an environment where people are a little bit better than you, right? And that can be kind of a pretty shitty thing, to be honest.
Well, I think the other thing you've got to be aware of as well, Rich, with regards to that, right, is life as we know it has stopped. If I didn't have this channel, I can tell you one thing for sure: as outwardly jovial, as outwardly friendly and fun, I hope I come across, but not, just that's who I am. Like who I am on this channel and who I am to know me can be two different people. If I didn't have this channel to keep me going throughout this year, I don't think I would have made it through. I would be absolutely and utterly honest with that. I've got plenty of friends. I've got a really good family. I'm in a really good relationship. I would have made it through, yes, but I don't know what state my mental health would have been. There have been times this year where today, literally today, I did not want to do this broadcast. And it was, I was literally, I phoned you at 4 o'clock this afternoon. I said, Rich, I can't do it. I said, I'm in such a bad place mentally. I just, and a lot of that came from social media. Because I was picking up the energy coming from it, and the idiotic ways in which people are behaving, and how nasty they are to each other, and how their behaviour is like freaking children. It's just I said I just gonna go around smacking people. If it wasn't for the close people I have to me, and being able to contribute to doing this channel, and actually building a relationship with you guys, and doing these broadcasts and everything else, right? I've turned a situation into one where I literally felt so disabled at the start of it. I felt literally so disabled because having to social distance with my eyesight, having to be able to do the things that I couldn't do before. I was in a mess. I was literally in a mess when we went to lockdown, and I had a choice, and I was lucky because I could make that choice. I had the facility here to make that choice. I was very, very, very lucky. So there's so many things that can contribute to what's going on right now. I know of people who, two of the closest people to me, they're two of the most inspiring people in my life, who were social butterflies, basically, have become agrophobic now. I'm so fucking angry about it. I am so angry about it. It's affecting people. And you've got people going, oh, lockdown, otherwise it's this. And you're not seeing the effect you're having on other people. So, yeah. I can understand it, and I can understand why there would be people that are facing that horrific situation right now. Because it's a fucking horrific situation that we're in. But all we can do is make sure, and this is where love shines the most, right? This is where love shines the most, and I think this is where the turning point is going to be for a lot of us. Because when you get to that point, you say enough's enough. That's a force of love. I'm going to see my grandmother this week because I haven't seen her in 9 months. And quite frankly, I'm no more of a threat to her now than I was 9 months ago. So I'd like to go and see my grandmother because I think it's important to go and see my grandmother. I think it's important to go and see my family. It's part of who I am as a human being. And you want to legislate that, make it illegal. You know, saying to people in America now, in Oregon, in certain parts of America, they're legislating, well, if you've got more than 6 people in your house at Thanksgiving, we're sending the police in and you can go to jail. What the fuck? So, yeah. I told you this would happen.
Better though for saying it.
Yeah, it is actually.
Yeah. No, it is. It's good. It's good to get stuff off your chest. It's good to say. It's nothing wrong with saying this is all a bit of a shit show, and I'm a bit, I've got a bit of butterflies in my belly because I don't know where the world's going, and I got my own problems. There's nothing wrong with it.
No.
This is what this is about. Come on and say it. It's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with being frightened right now. It's all designed to make you scared. So, but. I can promise you, and I've said this now on a couple of shows, I promise you, and this is with all my might, I believe that this is where we make this world a better place. It's got to be shit before it gets better, and I think we're there. I think people are standing up, and yes, you're going to have the sheeple, you're going to have the people that just dib, dob, I'll do as I'm told. They're too afraid to ask questions, because in that, they're okay. They haven't got to worry about what's next, the next step, because somebody's telling them that if you listen and you do as you're told, I'll be there for you. I'll fix it. I'll give you a vaccine. I'll make sure you can go shopping. I'll make sure to do the things, the little mundane things you do in the routine of your life. But in that comes ignorance, and it can't go on. So leave it to us. You put your masks on. If you feel like you want to get the jab, get it, and the rest of us will stand up for the rights of humanity.
Dude, I put my mask on. I walk into my local shop like a ninja now. I am now officially the blind ninja. It's great. Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
go on.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, it's just just keep it in mind, guys. It's the right people out there asking the right questions, doing the deeds. Just don't hinder them. Tell people, just don't hinder them. Yeah. If they balls it up, if they got egg on their faces, so be it. But they're trying to just do the right thing. They're trying to say this is wrong. So, that's all it is. That's all you've got to do is just put that awareness out there. You don't have to get into arguments, but one of my favorite things is going on Facebook and just having, getting into little arguments with people. It's just a little thing I caught because I don't know why. But
he has nothing else to do.
It's just people. I just love the people that say things that are crazy, and I just got to tell them that was what you just said there was pretty balmy. And try and make people see that there's an alternative. There is an alternative. Like I know people that come to me and say, "I can't believe people can't see this, Rich," and I'm like, "I know, it's crazy." But that's what I just like to do. I just like to make people aware of stuff that they otherwise would never see, even if it landed on their face. But I think it's gonna be all right, guys. I feel it. I think it's gonna be all right. We're gonna come through this. So we're gonna have a crazy world. It's gonna take some work, but I think we'll get it.
Thank you very much, guys, for watching. I've been Jared Walters.
I've been Richard Oliver.
And we'll see you. Don't forget now, actually, before we go, Richard, any final words from the chat? Because as you're doing this, I can quickly just go and put this video live. Is there any final words on the chat that we need to be aware of before we go?
I am looking. Yeah, it's just the same, sort of on the same lines. I mean, they can't. It's Christmas coming up. Can you imagine? I can't see the police going around to people's houses on Christmas, telling them that there's too many people in their homes. I don't think the police. I think the police are starting to go, do you know what? This is starting to look like bullshit. Personally, what I'm seeing, I don't think it's going to happen. I think people are going to start to think this is nonsense, especially with absolutely incredibly genius slogan going round, which is a police officer and a Nazi officer, and it says, "I was just following orders." Genius, right? We need the police, right? Otherwise, people will go mad, right? There'd be lawlessness everywhere. There won't be a shop with a tin in it, right? But they got to come to the point where they see that this is for naught, and this is the stuff they are being told to do, and the laws that are being made around this coronavirus are crazy. And we want them guys on our side. We need soldiers on our side. We need the right people to see that there's something wrong with all this going on. And I think it'll be sorted. And I think it's happening. I really believe it in my heart. I believe it's happening. I've seen videos of police officers staring at that poster saying, "I was just following orders." And you can see they're having a moral dilemma. And I don't want them to suffer. Nobody wants anyone to suffer.
I don't.
We've got to be at the point where you go, "Christ, whose side am I on?" So, I think it's going to start to turn a few people now. I think it's going to, if we saw with that soldier that got pushed over, the one who was playing the bagpipes, it's on social media, that the officer shoved him to the ground. You can even see other officers going, "Oh, mate, why did you do that for? Like, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous." So I think it's starting, the tide is starting to turn in our favour.
And you start to see police protest. You're starting to see police protest. You're starting to see, NHS workers, you're questioning the vaccine, professors questioning. And the thing is, it's right that we question things. That's how things get done. And that's how things are fairly done and fairly represented. Because at the end of the day, we've all got to live in this world. So we should all have a say in what happens in some way, shape or form. And that just simply isn't happening now. Guys, we love you very much. I will see you again very soon.
Love and light, para peeps.
Take care. The video from Gary is now live. Go over and watch it. It's fantastic. Take care. Bye.